is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me every need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need. Joy is my source. Joy is my power. Joy gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Joy gives me everything I need. Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Oh, God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need.
God is our source and power. Good morning and welcome to Unity of the Blue Ridge. I'm Rev Darlene Strickland, and I'm so happy to welcome you to this beautiful, beautiful new day. Wherever you are and wherever and whenever you're tuning in, we'd like to take this opportunity to remember that each and every one of us are, we deserve the dignity to be on our own path and truly deserve the mutual respect to recognize the true identity of who we each and every one are.
On eagle's wings, bear you on, breath of dawn, and
Make you shine like the sun.
And hold you
Raise you up on eagle's wings. We give thanks for that, which comes from the Psalm 91 and the truth of that. This morning we enter into a time of prayer together. As we turn our awareness within, we do so in that spirit of gratitude, that deep appreciation and recognition. We also bring acute awareness this morning to our country, to the recognition that many are so relieved and happy and celebrating, and many are very disappointed. And so it is indeed a time for true healing. That, as has been said, there is a time and a season for everything, and this is a season for unity and for healing. And so may each and every one of us remember what it is to think of another as we would think of ourselves, to practice and to live into the golden rule, to be able to have what I call holy compassion. And so this day we open in that spirit of celebration and gratitude, but being very mindful in that spirit of wholeness and healing and tenderness, that this is indeed a pivotal moment in how we show up and how we truly be the light of the world is going to make all the difference going forward. And so we celebrate this opportunity, and we do so in the recognition of the holiness within all beings and in the holiness of this moment. And so in the name and nature of that Holy Spirit, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Well, Acela and Donna and Tia, the four of us here today, want to thank you for joining us and for tuning in. I'm really excited today to have someone who's going to be joining us virtually, someone that I really respect and admire, Reverend Dr. Roger Teel. We studied his book on joy a couple of years ago as our fall study series, and we're in another fall study series on joy today. In the midst, we're in week 6 of a fall series. So I'll tell you more about that in just a moment, but first, we love music around here, and I want to step back in time to earlier in time. We had Eddie Watkins Jr. with us, and he was singing one of my favorite songs, and I believe it's truly the medicine for our world, and that is God is the Answer. So enjoy this with Eddie and our Unity Band.
Here we all are, gathered together in this place. Why are we here? What is our purpose? Spirit, reveal. How do we know what's true and what's real? We may not know where life's road will lead, but it doesn't matter long as we believe that God is the answer. God is the answer. God is the answer to whatever the question maybe. What's going on in this world today? Oh, where do we fit? And what can we do to make a difference? What can we say? Where do we go? This way or that way? But if we all pray and truly believe, and don't you know we got to love one another so we can let the world see that God is the answer. God is the answer. God is the answer to whatever the question may be. To whatever the question may be.
God is the answer. Thank you, Eddie Watkins Jr. I just love that man and the music. God is the answer, and God is love. Well, today, again, I want to welcome you to week 6 of our fall study series that is based on the Book of Joy by the Archbishop Desmond Tutu and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Today, we have the special treat to have Reverend Dr. Roger Teel with us. We actually studied his Book of Joy 2 years ago, This Life is Joy, a powerful book. And Roger Teel is someone that I have admired personally for a long time, for a minister's minister, so to speak, someone that you can be fed by your own self. Roger is one of those people. He retired from full-time church ministry just a couple of years ago, I think, thereabout. But he was the minister for the Center for Spiritual Living in Lakewood, Colorado. And it's interesting, Roger, we have a link. We have a handful of people in our congregation here who actually came from the Center for Spiritual Living, Mile High, Lakewood. So they love you and are looking forward to this, as we all are. We hope to have Roger here with us in person when that's safe to do so again. But Roger is an incredible speaker. He is a community builder. He's a spiritual leader. He himself has actually spent time on multiple occasions with the Dalai Lama. He is a leader of all people. And it's my joy today, as Roger joins us from Colorado, would you please join me in welcoming Reverend Dr. Roger Teel.
Thank you very much, Reverend Darlene. What an honor it is to share some time with you this Sunday morning, this wonderful community at the Unity of the Blue Ridge. Someday I hope to visit you. It sounds like a beautiful place. And it's wonderful that you're studying the great concept of joy. As you know, I wrote a book about it that you had studied a while back, and now you're reading the Book of Joy with His Holiness and Desmond Tutu. What a wonderful study, and I'm so glad you did. So I want to talk more about joy with you today as you continue a series in that. So the great Sophie Tucker at one point was asked, what's the secret to a long life? And she paused and she replied, keep breathing. And while there's a practical truth to that, I would say that the secret to a long and a wonderful and a really rewarding life, a life worth living, is a deep, powerful, spiritual joy. Joy. Now, for many, there's a lot of confusion about this thing called joy. And then there are long time patterns of joyless living for so many. And for so many, as I think it was Thoreau said, they live lives of quiet desperation. And their joy is just a brief bit of peace between problems. And that's a sad way to live. It's like the little kid who was at his grandfather's farm, and his grandfather was a very strict man, a strict religious man, very conservative religion, and he had hardly ever smiled or joked. And the little boy was out in a corral, and he saw the sad-looking donkey, and it stroked its face and the wrinkles on its face, and he said, "Poor donkey, you've got Grandpa's religion too." You know, the average day for most people is they awaken and they drag themselves out of bed, and then it's another day. The routines and the tedium and all the same old stuff. They're the ups and downs of life, and then a kaleidoscope of moods and states of awareness, most of them triggered by outside events. And these individuals, sadly enough, are happy when a few little droplets of good things happen in their life. And then they're unhappy when the bad things occur. And life is this roller coaster ride. It's a sad way to living. It's a kind of reactive form of this thing called happiness. And many assume that that's all that life offers. That's all that's really possible for them. So as a result, they try to control everything, control experiences, control conditions, and block change, all of which is totally futile, but there's the temptation to do it anyway. And then along come the bombarding of the merchants who are offering all these elixirs, you know, the possessions, the food, the substances, the tantalizing experiences. It's all about having the right stuff in life as a form of happiness. But the harsh reality is that living for this kind of happiness mostly results in deep emptiness and a greater and greater weariness. And thank God there is so much more for us. And I'm delighted that you are looking into this and anchoring into this greater good within you. There is a deep joy far beneath the surface of life, kind of like the deep calm beneath the turbulence of the ocean surface. There's a deep joy. And it's more than being happy with something or for something. It's actually the most fundamental reality in this universe. Meister Eckhart said that joy is an infallible sense of the presence of God. And I love it that in 1 Thessalonians it says, in everything give thanks, rejoice evermore. Rejoice. Keep that joy energy flowing. In my book, I write about a lady that I counseled a long time ago, and she had had a series of difficult experiences, and she was also praying for the kind of life she really wanted. And she prayed and she prayed and she prayed, and she said, Roger, I just don't understand it. I'm not getting results, and I want to be happy in my life. And I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want to be happy. And I kind of coached her a little bit, and I said, you're giving a lot of power to those things and to those desires. And not that you can't have all of that, but you're giving so much power to them. And I saw kind of a light bulb look go on for her. And she said, I'll think about this. I'll pray about this. And she came back about 2 weeks later, and she was in a totally different state of consciousness. She sat down, she said, I got it. I was praying for all of these things to make me happy, but I wasn't praying to be happy, to just awaken to joy. And I love it that she wrote an affirmation for herself. God, I am willing to be happy. And I'd like you to say that with me again. God, I am willing to be happy. The more you affirm that, as she did, you awaken a willingness. And it's like the universe rushes in to support you, because now you're looking within for this deep spiritual quality called joy. And you're willing to have that flood up no matter what's going on in your life. And the interesting thing is that when that vibration of joy becomes established within you, then everything in life becomes a vibrational match with that joy. A key to this joy is to know where it really lives. And again, we're saying it's not out there in the people, places, and conditions that we would all like, which are pleasant and pleasurable. But there's a difference with joy and pleasure. Joy is the deep reality of spirit. Pleasure is the roller coaster ride of experiences that we derive or create with conditions and experiences in life. And there's a place where it lives. And I discovered this place, as I write also in my book, after a very deep wounding, a profound betrayal in my life. After 3 years of a relationship with a certain lady, we were going to announce our engagement, and all of a sudden she broke it off and wouldn't even talk to me. And I descended into months and months of a personal hell. I was grieving, and then I got angry, and it got more and more toxic. And I was ruining my life. I was an associate minister at the time, and I had no creativity. I wasn't sleeping well. I was endangering just about every good thing in my life, until a friend kind of gave me that little nudge saying, hey, you know some principles, it's time you practice them. I didn't like hearing it, but I knew he was right. And I went on a deep search, a long time search. And I discovered soon on the relationship was not of the quality and dimension that I thought it was, but I was dependent on it. But more than that, after 4 or 5 months, I came to the startling realization that the meaning of this experience was for me to discover the nature of the condition of my personal spiritual heart, that I had gotten to my early 30s with a closed and protected heart. And after much study and working with some very powerful facilitators, including Brew Joy, my heart chakra flew open, and I knew the reality of God as love. Not as a theory, not as out there, but as a living vibration of love that was cascading and pouring out of my heart, and everything in my life transformed. My ministry went to the high road, and I've just retired after 43 years in the ministry and accomplished wonderful things, an incredible ride. It wouldn't have been possible without the heart opening. I attracted an incredible wife, and I have 2 sons and 5 grandchildren, and my life is idyllic. And opening my heart was the key. More than anything, the reason I share that story with you is that for me, my joy emerges out of the open heart. And I know that this is the place where we find true, lasting, courageous, joy. So easy in this life to get trapped in a small box of thinking, and a small box of self-concept. We get caught up in this sense of the ego self, and it pretty much views us as weak and insignificant and separate. And thus it is defined and run by fear. And of course, then the ego defends against love. And so thus we look for our joy in the fleeting pleasures out there in the world, and we anesthetize ourselves against the pains in the world. But we don't know the deep joy because our heart is not open. And so the ego puts us in this small box. But there's so much more for us than a small box life. There's a big life for you, not a small box life. I believe that we all need a small box inoculation. That's right. We need a small box inoculation so that we are freed of the toxic little ego self. And we go on the adventure of our spiritual awakening, and we discover real joy. And when we do this, the earth is going to be a far better place. The key to our kind of teaching, this New Thought teaching, teachings in unity and other schools of New Thought like it, is that consciousness is causation. So it's how we pattern consciousness through our thinking, through our conclusions, our judgments and assessments of life, some of which is conscious, most of which is unconscious in us. That's consciousness, and our consciousness is the causative power in our lives because we're all part of an infinite field of divine intelligence. It's called the divine mind, if you will, and it sources and it animates everything. And creation is seated in divine mind. It is seated in this divine mind. Each of us then is a center of creative awareness in this divine mind. And I believe our highest responsibility is to cultivate our consciousness so that our lives are uplifted in an authentic and organic and natural way. And we stop looking for things out there to give us the joy and the light of our lives. We discover it within ourselves. But we also become an increasingly open conduit for the good of God to flow through us. And it's a very powerful and important responsibility. A while back, Princeton commissioned a project called the Global Consciousness Project. And with this, they placed a number of random number generators in 70 sites, 70 random number generators around the planet. And they then collected, they all fed into a central computer, and they collected 15 years of data from these random number generators. And what happens is these generators do just that. They just churn out these numbers randomly. However, they were shocked to discover that when a major world event occurred that affected the lives of many, many people, and maybe millions of people, then these generators stopped operating randomly. And they began to operate in a structured way. And the odds of this happening are 1 in a trillion. And so it's events like 9/11 or the deaths of Princess Di or Michael Jackson or Robin Williams and things of that nature, a tsunami or things like that. And all of a sudden, these random number generators started acting in a structured way, meaning they were susceptible to the collective consciousness of humankind. And when something significant would occur in that field of consciousness, it would affect these generators, these little boxes that just churned out these random numbers. And so Princeton writes, subtle but real effects of consciousness are important scientifically, but their real power is more immediate. They encourage us to make essential, healthy changes in the great systems that dominate our world. Large-scale group consciousness has effects in the physical world. Knowing this, we can intentionally work toward a brighter, more conscious future. I happen to believe that discovering our joy, the true spiritual quality of spiritual joy within each of us, is a way that we contribute to the advancement of human consciousness. So I want to close this by offering you some CPR for consciousness. And each of those letters, C, P, and R, are the way you can remember these practices. First of all, compassion. I know that this week in your program is dedicated to compassion. This is so very important. It's an aspect of an open heart. Compassion is holding the higher view, the namaste consciousness for someone or for a situation. Somebody has defined compassion as understanding the lack of understanding. It's understanding how people can get lost, can get stuck, can fall into dark places, and can become puppets of their old conditioning and the broadcast of doom and gloom and negativity around them. It's to have compassion for the struggles and the challenges. But compassion is not just that kind of empathy. It's also fueled by the high view of who these individuals really are, because they're more than their problem. And so are we. We're more than our problems. We have problems, but we're more than that. We have a history, but we're more than that. We have the stories of our life, but we're so much more than that. And an open-hearted, joyful compassion can see through the struggles of the human condition, individually or collectively, and seize upon that truth with compassion, thus allowing that individual to be an instrument of love and peace. You're reading a book co-authored by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and I've had the privilege of being with him for 3 times, each 5 days long. We created, a group of us ministers created the Association for Global New Thought, and we had 5 synthesis dialogues in 99, 2001, and 2004. And each time we brought spiritual and social leaders from around the world together. And then midway through our time, His Holiness and his entourage would arrive, and we would continue and advance the dialogues. It was very, very, very rich. And I remember at one point, His Holiness was talking about the Chinese. And I thought, wow, what the Chinese have done to the Tibetan people. Of course, His Holiness had to flee when he was a teen and almost died crossing the Himalayas. He had to flee his country. And since then, there's been a tremendous, terrible genocide, cultural, spiritual, and physical genocide going on there. And His Holiness has been in exile, and you can only imagine the burden that he bears. He tries to create, he has a wonderful orphanage, and he tries to bring in children who are taken across that same arduous journey, and many monks who are in exile as well. But basically, it's a very sad, heartbreaking situation. And yet he has an effusive joy about him. Every time His Holiness walks into the room, he's giggling, and not in a trite way. This man is one of the most profound beings on the planet right now. And yet he also has his joy. And he's carrying the burden of all of this. And he speaks with compassion about his Chinese brethren. He says, he calls them his sacred friends. We all have sacred friends in our lives, the ones that are difficult to love, challenging ones, and yet we can still love them. We can still have compassion. And so he talks about his friends, the Chinese, not approving of what they have done and are doing, but holding them in compassion on their journey in life and knowing the higher truth about them. CPR for consciousness, a joy consciousness, starts with compassion. And then it continues with practicing, because it's not enough to just meditate on compassion. It's not enough to read about it, think about it, affirm about it. Those are all good. But it's when we move it into action and we actually give expression to our compassion, practicing the joy, practicing the compassion in our lives, that it becomes very, very powerful, life-changing, transformative in many, many cases. Interesting and very heart-touching scenario. I want to tell you about a young lady named Marina Keegan and her parents. Such a bright light Marina was. She graduated from Yale. She wanted to be a writer, and she'd actually even been published by the New York Times. Then 5 days after graduation, Marina died in a car accident. Her boyfriend was driving her and himself to her father's 55th birthday party at her family's summer house. Nobody was drinking. Nobody was speeding. The car just hit a guardrail and flipped. And Marina died. Her boyfriend lived. Marina's death could have granted the Keegans permission to descend into the darkest grief, to rage at everything. They could have blamed the car, blamed the boyfriend, blamed the weather, blamed God, but they didn't. Nope, Tracy and Kevin Keegan did instead something radical from the heart. They took the most dreadful thing a parent can endure, and they transformed it into love and forgiveness. And the day after Marina's death, they reached out to the boyfriend, inviting him to join them at their home and embracing him. Later, they went to court to make certain that the charges of vehicular homicide were dropped against him. And then they diligently worked to publish a book of Marina's writings and her essays and short stories. They called the book The Opposite of Loneliness. You see, at her graduation, some days before her passing, Marina shared an interesting motto for her life. She said before the people, "I will live for love, and the rest will take care of itself." I will live for love, and the rest will take care of itself. And so in the dedication to the book of her essays, her parents included that phrase and said this, "I will live for love, and the rest will take care of itself," were Marina's words on graduation day, the last day we saw her. The Opposite of Loneliness is dedicated to love. Our hope is that Marina's message of love will inspire readers to imagine the possibilities and make a difference in the world. Compassion. And seizing upon the situations of our own lives and using them well for compassion. Practicing. Compassion and practicing and then rejoicing. Oh, it's a definite part of a C.P.R. for consciousness. Rejoicing, energizing joy, and exploring within to find that place where joy always abides, even if you're grieving. I have known people in the deepest grief who knew this. And though they were hurting, they said to me, "I still love life. And I still feel the joy in it all." Because love and an open heart can bring us to that place. Doesn't mean that we don't hurt. Doesn't mean that at times we don't get angry or concerned or worried for life and for our world. But at the same time, we keep that joy alive because that joy is the fountain for our true strength. That joy is the place where our inspiration and our inner peace and all the things that make us contributors rather than detractors to life, that's where it flows, from the fountain of our joy. It's activating a gratitude and a presence to life in each and every moment that transcends our judgments about things. And we're anchored in something real within us that makes all the difference in our life. Love the story about a young businessman who was in a suit and tie on a very, very hot, humid day. He was at the bus stop waiting for his bus. And along came an older gentleman, probably in his late 80s, on a cane, moving gingerly. He too dressed very nattily, but perspiring and laboring under the heat of it all. And he came up and stood next to the young man, and he too was waiting for his bus. The young man said, "How you doing today?" And the old man looked up and he said to him, "Best day yet. Best day yet." I want to live like that. I bet you do too. We can. Sometimes our consciousness needs a little C.P.R. It needs a healthy dose of compassion. Oh, it needs a lot of practicing and using our events to be instruments of compassion. And then total rejoicing on a day-by-day basis. Finding God as joy in our own souls. And knowing that life is so beautiful. And as spiritual beings, eternal spiritual beings, we're here to be fountains of light and joy. I bless you in this, and may you always have your best day yet. Let's have a little prayer together. If you choose to, close your eyes and just open your heart. Move from your head to your heart. Feel your shoulders falling. Sense your heart quickening and warming you. And surrender to your heart. Feel that vibration moving throughout your being, through every cell of your body, activating it according to its highest pattern. Lifting you from any former emotions that may have for a short time trapped you. Freeing you. Lifting you as an eagle on eagle's wings. As you sense that heart, also sense the deep joy of your being. A joy that's always there, that you don't need anything to change in your life to connect with. It's the light and the power of God as you. It's the great divine love holding you constantly in its eternal embrace. And it's the vitality and the glory, the magnificence of life itself, in you, through you, as you. And I bless you as you and I, as all of us, walk forward, living this joy, expressing compassion, all the gifts of the open heart and the truth of our being. And I affirm and know that our lives are fully blessed as we do this, as we reclaim our power to generate our own states of being, and as we let God be God in, through, and as us. And I know that we go forth in doing this and make a difference wherever we go. Remember, you are the light of the world. And through your heart and your joy, I affirm and know that light shines bright. So I give thanks for healings at the level of mind, body, emotions, and truth abides within us all. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. This truth has made us free. We give thanks. We let it be so, and so it is. Amen. It's been a joy to be with you. God bless you, and I hope to meet you sometime in the near future. And now here's Reverend Darlene.
Wow, Roger, I just so appreciate your willingness to live your truth, to hold your own being to the fire of your soul, to continually grow and evolve, and to share that tried and true message of joy. And to each and every one of you, I want to thank you for joining in. And, you know, today is such a different day. It's a new day. Many of us throughout this whole election process, it has just been filled with different emotions and probably some reactionary feelings. Most people I know, I think everybody I know, has either family or loved ones or Facebook friends who voted differently. And so we stand in this threshold where we've had shown and reflected back to us that we are very polarized. We're very divided as a nation. There are different values and different ways of showing up. And so we stand at a real crossroads today where many of us, including me, I'm relieved. I can celebrate. I feel like I can kiss the ground. And I want to take that opportunity, because in order to really have joy is to have compassion, is to have empathy. You know, empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy says, oh, I'm sorry for you. Empathy says, I can relate. You know, that just like me, you want to be loved. Just like me, you want to feel safe. Just like me, you want to be governed by someone you trust. Just like me, that we are truly all in this together. So each and every one of you that are watching, I really encourage you to hold your feet to the fire of your soul, to show up as never before, as understanding, as compassion, as being to others what you would want others to be to you. It is a day to celebrate. It truly is. It is a day to believe that new and a better world is going to be born of this. But my friends, it will never be born through a handful of any politicians. It will be born through we, the people. And so you and I are these people. And so we step into this day. We step into this joy. We really soak in his message, the C.P.R. of joy, that it is compassion first. God is love. It is practicing what we preach. Believe me, throughout this process, I got into a terrible argument with some family members. Now, I've apologized more than once. It keeps us humble. It keeps us realizing we all have to hold our feet to the fire of our own soul. So it's compassion, it's practice, and it is time to rejoice. So I celebrate with you. I want to thank you, and I want to be that change, to be this love in action. For those of you that are local, next Sunday, weather permitting, we're planning to have our service not at 11 but at noon. So just follow our website. But we're hoping to have one outdoor service again this next coming Sunday outside at noon. If you're local and you can join us for that, please do so. We'll also be live streaming. But if you are local and can come out, we'll have spaces marked off that are distanced. You can bring your lunch and enjoy a picnic as we share a special service together. Next Sunday, we're also going to be kicking off a little fall something that we're doing to sort of wrap up our Raise the Roof. So be sure you're around. That'll be for anyone that's local or our growing live stream community. So I know you're going to want to be a part of that. We also will soon be having holiday kits. You know, it's not looking favorable that we're going to be able to gather. We don't know. We're still watching that, but we want to be safe. Either way, we're going to be prepared and equip you with a holiday kit for our Christmas Eve and our burning bowl. So we've got some good planning and good things ahead. So stay tuned for that. And last, but certainly not least, I want to thank you for your prayer consciousness. Thank you for your cards and your letters. And thank you for your faithful financial support. Even though we're not gathering in person, this ministry is still going on as strongly as ever and as busy as ever behind the scenes and right here every day. So I want to thank you for doing what you can, what's yours to do spiritually to support this spiritual community. If you're thinking about an end of year gift or giving, this is a great time to do so. So we welcome that. And if you have any questions, just give us a call. All of our information can be found on our website. So to wrap up, we're going to go back in time to Cat Williams and our Unity Band with an Eddie Watkins song that says, I am the place that God shows up. May you have a wonderful week, and may you enjoy this song as we sign off together. God is the place.
Strong enough to bear the burden that sometimes comes with living this thing called life. Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself. Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God. You are the place. We are the place where God. God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Sing it loud, sing it proud. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God